Hi, my name is Brad the Beaster, and today I'm focusing on technology in PE and how it can raise levels of physical activity in the gym. Now, I'm interested in this because while I was an undergrad at Brockport, they didn't really require technology in PE or really focus on it in the methods classes. And when I realized that there was a class specifically towards this, I was already too far into the program to really take it and fit it in my schedule. So now, after researching for this class and in general in the master's program, I've found how important it can be to use the technology in PE and how often it's not really used in PE. Now, because it's not used very often, I wanted to include two pieces of technology that you can use that aren't too hard to implement. So the first one was iPads, and the other one is heart rate monitors. So first is iPads. So since iPads are already being included in schools so much more these days, a lot of students just get them. I didn't get it back then, but as I've been substitute teaching, I've been seeing it more and more. That's used in classes to help education in those classes where they can write and do a whole bunch of things. But it's not helpful in PE, not to the sense because it couldn't be helpful, but the idea that some teachers don't even know how useful it can be, and it's not implemented very often. So it could create opportunities to motivate students through recording and QR codes and different apps that we'll talk about. The first one's QR Mania, and that's the article that this was called. And in this article, the teacher talked about how they had QR codes on polyspots. And while students in a group would go along the trail, they would pull out their camera on their iPad, which is easy to use. You put it right on the QR code and it pops up. You don't have to click on anything. The link immediately pops up. And then it will show maybe the exercises they had to do at the station or how they can get to the next spot in the trail. And then another thing they did was gymnastic moves were shown when they do the QR code in the gym, so they could see a video of how it's properly done and how they can do it. So then you can implement video recording, which we'll talk about next, and kind of compare and contrast. I find it interesting because if I was an elementary student, especially in this situation, if I could use an iPad, it would just give me the little motivation to do the exercises that it shows instead of like a piece of paper showing it. If you're using electronics, it's a little bit more exciting. I definitely would have done that. And I know a lot of students would to this day. The last thing I want to mention was that when I was a student teacher, one of the classes, it was like the first time I ever saw technology being used. It was where she would create for elementary students QR codes for their iPads, and it was based on each grade. So each grade had a different quiz, and the quiz was like through Google Quizzing, or it was an app like that. So when they do the link, it would automatically pop up, and they could take the quiz, and it would be quick and it'd be easy. So not only would it be easy for the students, as soon as it got submitted by the students, it would be automatically be graded. So she could take that data and automatically put it in her grade book. So it saved time on both sides. And ultimately what that does is it creates more activity time during the day, which is what we want, to have more activity. The second part is iPad recording. So we kind of mentioned it before, but the idea here is that you want to video record and you can use that with a group. So a group can, or maybe a partner, one person can record you doing a movement, whether it's throwing a shot put, shooting a basketball. And then you can look at it together and they can help you, or you can look at yourself individually and figure out what you're doing wrong or maybe what you're doing right and how you can do better. But it's also like, if you're learning that way, you're also going to be more active because not only you're seeing it for yourself, but the person next to you is seeing it. And also, if you're learning it, you're going to do better in general. You're going to be more active if you're doing better. So with that motivation you have, it'll be more improvement and they'll be more active in general. Next part is heart rate monitors. And I find these super interesting because I have a watch myself, an Apple Watch, which records my heart rate, especially when I do exercises. And the idea here is that if I'm running at a certain pace, I should be able to know that I need to be at a certain level of heart rate But not a lot of people know that. Not a lot of people know what effort levels that is, what intensity level that is. But the more you teach them with this equipment, the better they can be and the more active they can be. And this is shown through these activities. So in this study, it had the students in 5 different units wear heart rate monitors in 5th and 6th grade, and then they reviewed what they did and how active they were and what times they were active and where they weren't. And they were able to realize that there was a lot more wait time than they realized, and then certain activities weren't as active that they wanted to be. They didn't get their students' heart rates up as much as they wanted to be to get that vigorous level of exercise that, maybe 45 minutes that they're shooting for, or maybe 60 minutes, or however, whatever their goal is for that week. But in general, it can help teachers and it can help students, but especially in this sense, it can help teachers reflect and create better lessons for more activity. But it's also especially important for high schoolers because it can be a motivator, and it needs to be a motivator to the point where they understand what they're doing, so they can be a lifelong physical fit person. With this other study that happened, it was a motivator, but there was negative results if it was based on a grade. So if I was getting graded based on how much heart rate percentage I had, the percentage average throughout the day, and so was another student, that was how you were graded instead of other things. So it was kind of effort based. But effort is not a good way to grade because everybody has a different intensity level and effort level. So it might be easier for me to get my heart rate up to 160 beats per minute, but then someone who runs cross country it may take them a lot more effort to get to that level. So that's why you can't grade on it. But if you're using it for self-assessment and individual progress, that's when you can use it effectively. When they understand that they need to get, when they're running to a certain level, to actually burn calories and burn carbs. And then if they do it for a certain extent, then you're going to burn even after you're done because your body's so used to running and exercising and things like that. You can use technology effectively. It doesn't have to be a negative result. And eventually, because they understand how to do this, then maybe they'll get an Apple Watch. Maybe they'll have their own heart rate monitors to where they can do lifelong fitness. And when they go to the gym or exercise, they understand how to properly do it. So in conclusion, technology influences motivation and PE experiences. Even for elementary kids, the little QR code might have just been the reason why they would want to do something. And then for high schoolers, the heart rate monitor was intrinsically teaching them, how to be healthy and what it means at a certain heart rate and effort level, why it's important for the rest of their lives. And iPads and heart rate monitors are easier technologies to implement first. And I even consider pedometers, but those are not going to teach you much other than just activity itself is important, but we want to make sure that it's including vigorous activity as well. But like I've said, technology has been discussed for years, but it's not a requirement in PE programs, and there's still plenty of teachers, definitely the majority of teachers do not have technology much in their lessons beyond like a Wii maybe they're implementing. So if teachers aren't willing to evolve and they're not willing to implement this technology and learn and go to conferences and to that deal, then we're still going to be having this stigma against us that we're not doing enough and that we're not the same degree of teaching as other teachers.